In this lecture, I'm going to show you how to create a custom theme. So, back in our theme.scss file, on the top, first we need to import the Sass file that comes with Angular material. This Sass file defines all the colors that you saw earlier. So all those colors we saw in the color tool, they're all defined as variables here. It also includes a bunch of mixins, functions, and a few other things. So on the top, import. The address of this file relative to the node modules folder is tilde at angular slash material slash underline theming. Make sure to spell it properly, otherwise it's not going to work. And also, chances are in the future, the Angular material team may change the name of this file as they have done before. So if it doesn't work on your machine, let me show you how to find the path to the right file. So under node modules, under at Angular, let's take a look. This is material folder. Here are our pre-built themes that we used earlier in the course. And this is our Sass file, theming.scss. I'm going to open this. So you can see there's several thousand lines of code here. Here we have a mixin, another mixin, and so much more code. So back to our theme.scss. We imported Angular material theme. Now we need to include the core styles that are defined in Angular material. These styles give our components a modern and consistent look and feel. For example, you have seen how our input fields look like, how our drop-down lists look like. All of these are defined in a mixin called mat-core. So to use that mixin here, we use include mat-core. Now to better understand this, let's go to Angular material theme file and search for mat-core. So we can see this is a mixin. Here we have a loop. And below that, we're including a few other mixins. So the first one is Angular material typography. This mixin defines all the styles for headings, paragraphs, and typography in general. So here we're including this mixin, and we're also including a few other mixins. Each mixin, as you saw earlier, brings in a bunch of CSS attributes and their values. So we included the core styles. Now we need to define our custom colors on top of these. So we need to define 3 variables for 3 color palettes: primary, accent, and warn. So to define a variable, use $. Let's give this a name like app-primary. Now here we want to call a function for generating a palette object. In Sass, function is similar to a mixin, but the difference is that a function can return a value. So here we have a function called mat-palette. We call this function and give it some arguments. Once again, to better understand what is happening under the hood, let's go back to the other Sass file and search for mat-palette. So you can see this is a function. It has a few parameters. The first parameter is base palette, and this is where we specify our color. So we pass a color here, like red, blue, green, whatever. And these additional arguments here, these are optional. As we can see, they have default values. So the second argument is default, which determines the average tone for that color. By default, it's set to 500. We can also specify the lighter and darker version of that color if we want to, but we don't have to. Now back here, our primary color was blue, as you saw in the color tool. So in this theme file, we have all the colors defined with a name like this: mat dash the name of the color. For example, blue. Once again, let's take a look at this variable. So back here, let's search for $mat dash blue. So this is the declaration of this variable. You can see it's a complex object. It has various properties. So these are different shades. And you can see the actual color code for that shade. Okay. So back to our theme file. We defined our primary palette by calling the mat-palette function. This function takes a color, in this case blue, and returns a palette object. Now, similarly, we're going to define a secondary palette. So app dash accent. Again, recall matte palette function. For our accent color, we're going to use yellow. So matte dash yellow. Now here, for both these colors, I want to specify the exact shade that we found in the color tool. So the ones that I like are blue of 600 and yellow of 700. Now finally, we need to define another palette. So app-warn, we call the matte palette function, and we want to use red for our warnings. Okay, so these are our three color palettes. Now earlier I told you that a theme is a combination of multiple color palettes. So we need to define another variable and call it app theme. Now here we have two functions for creating a theme. We can use matte-light theme or matte-dark theme. Depending on which theme you use, the background and foreground colors are going to be different. And I'm going to show you how that works in a second. So let's go with the light theme. Once again, let's go have a look at this function. So search for matte light theme. You can see this is a function with these parameters: primary, accent, and warn, which is optional because by default it's set to the red color palette. Okay, so back here, we need to pass our color palettes here. The first one is app-primary. The second one is app-accent. And finally, app-warn. Okay. Now we have a theme. Finally, we need to use a mixin to include this theme. So include, the mixin is angular-material-theme. And as an argument, we give it this theme object that is app-theme. Once again, you don't have to memorize any of these. You can simply go to Angular Material website and see this code on the documentation. But I wanted to explain it line by line so you know exactly how everything works. So let's see this in action. I'm going to go in app.component.html. I want to add a couple of buttons here. So button, I want them to be raised buttons. And let's call this button 1, duplicate to button 2. Now I want to give them different colors. So this one should be primary and the other one should be accent. So this is where those colors come from our theme. Now let's see this in action. So you can see our buttons look different. So this is our light theme. Now let's take a look at a dark theme. So back in our custom theme file, I'm going to call matte dark theme function. Back in the browser, we don't see any changes because we need to apply a CSS class to the container of our application. This is where the background color is going to come into effect. So let's go to index.html. So this body element, this is the container of our application, right? So here we add a CSS class that is matte-app-background. Now back in the browser, this is our dark theme. So the background of our application is dark.